post tension. Beneath the surface in both lanes, there are 3 giant cables that are stretched over 30,000 pounds of tension, and that is supposed to hold the whole thing together. Well, enough of teasing you. What happened when the racers first got a crack at this track? Well, the pro stock cars really don't have enough horsepower to benefit from all of this concrete. Bob Glidden is the low qualifier at 7.45 seconds, 185 miles per hour. Not a record, not even a personal best. But Bob says that's because of all the heat and humidity we've experienced. Still, he hopes to put his Ford Thunderbird in the winner's circle today. If he does, it will be his 50th NHRA Pro Stock title, and that's a milestone we may never see equaled in our lifetime. I asked Bob if there was extra pressure because of that 50th victory.
Really, the pressure is on the Winston points right now. We came into this race with a slight lead, I think about a round lead over Warren, and it's still a four-man, or really a four-man chase for the Winston points. The 50th win would be a lot more important to us 10 years or 20 years from now than it would be today. That would be great, and we would love to make that happen here at the chief race in this new facility, but that's not a pressure.
Well, all of our fantasies were realized when the nitro burners took to the track. Number 1 qualifier in funny car, Kenny Bernstein, 5.42 seconds. That's 8/100ths better than Bernstein has ever run. The speed, 267 miles per hour. But it was Top Fuel racer Darrell Gwynn that fired the big shot. He was first in line, the first Top Fuel car to go down this particular drag strip, and lo and behold, he became the first drag racer ever into the 520s. On the $200,000 electronic scoreboard, it flashed 5.26 seconds. But look at the speed, 278 miles per hour, the fastest ever recorded. Gwynn was a happy young man.
Well, I don't know what to say. I'll tell you what. I'd like to say, number 1, this Bud's for you. We're going to announce our Budweiser sponsorship today if we set the record, and here we are. I'd like to thank everybody that's been involved with this car, Dale Armstrong, Kenny Bernstein, my family, all my friends. I can say anybody's name I want, Armstrong, Bernstein, anybody. They all helped me. Thank you very much.
All in all, Darrell has run 3 520 elapsed times, all over 278 miles per hour. But Dave, as you and I both know, the past few months, whenever Darrell qualifies number 1, he seems to have trouble early.
Steve, we'll find out in a few moments how Darrell Gwynn does, but right now it's time for the second round of Top Fuel Eliminator at the Chief Auto Parts Nationals. Here's the veteran, Connie Coletta, 48 years old from Ypsilanti, Michigan. A tremendous crowd looking as Connie Coletta does his burnout, followed by the streamliner of Gary Ormsby. He debuted this car at the NHRA Winter Nationals earlier this year, but yet the car has not paid the dividends that the streamlining might indicate. The car, a very exotic creation designed to cut through the wind and provide Ormsby with a slight advantage over his competitors. A car dealer in Auburn, California, Ormsby defeated John Kerry in the first round of competition, while Coletta beat Gene Snow, a Texan out of Fort Worth. As we've seen so often, the Coletta racing team had 2 cars entered in this event. Young Scott Coletta, the son of Connie, was driving his funny car in qualifying when an engine exploded, causing a serious fire. Coletta himself was uninjured, but the car was damaged beyond repair, and Scott Coletta was out of competition after this blistering hot qualifying fire. But his dad in the second round of Top Fuel competition is racing against Gary Ormsby. Connie Coletta, his win streak dating back to 1967, when he won the NHRA Winter Nationals, is matched against Gary Ormsby. He also had his first NHRA National event win come at the Winter Nationals, but that was in 1984. Now they are on the concrete surface at the Texas Motorplex just outside of Ennis, Texas. Round number 2, Top Fuel Eliminator. Coletta gets the advantage off the starting line. He's got about a car length lead. Ormsby has to come from behind. He cannot do it. Connie Coletta wins it, 5.47 seconds. He's going 265 miles an hour when he crosses the finish line, a quarter of a mile away from the start. The engine's coming to life in our next pair. This is Dick LaHaye. You saw him just a couple of weeks ago on USA Sports as he won the NHRA Castrol GTX Keystone Nationals from Reading, Pennsylvania. But today, he races the man of the hour, young Darrell Gwynn, who has established a new national record with the quickest elapsed time and the fastest speed ever. Dick LaHaye, with his daughter Kim as his crew chief, has had his problems at this event. He did not qualify as well as he would have liked. The performance of the car off pace just a little bit. But as we have seen so many times before, LaHaye is capable of finding that performance on race day and beating everybody in sight. The 44-year-old LaHaye finished 9th in the world last season. In the first round of racing here for the 5th consecutive meeting, he defeated former NFL quarterback Dan Pastorini. For Darrell Gwynn, his first round victory came over Shirley Muldowney. There's been lots of speculation around the Texas Motorplex about the reasons behind Gwynn's performance this weekend. Some say it has to do with the clutch assembly. To get a closer look at that, Steve Evans went to the pits to find out.
Some of the competition here will tell you that part of Darrell Gwynn's record-setting success story this weekend is some kind of a trick 5-disc special lockup clutch, much like rumored to be in his pal Kenny Bernstein's funny car. Well, I can tell you firsthand that that is not true, because here, sizzling hot on top of a pizza box of all things, is the clutch right out of Darrell's car after a 278-mile-per-hour qualifying run. There are 4 discs just like everybody else. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Each disc is separated by a steel floater plate, so they all make contact just like everybody else's. Now, here's the pressure plate, and anybody that thinks there's any tricks here is also wrong. Now, there may be in Bernstein's, but not here. Now, a clutch is nothing more than a mechanical press, and it's adjustable so that at the starting line, the clutch will slip, letting that excess horsepower go through the clutch instead of smoking the tires. Now, as the clutch gains centrifugal force, the weight causes these fingers here to pull back, and that puts more pressure locking up the clutch. But with the amount of horsepower they've got today, the motor seems to always be racing ahead of the clutch. So what people think Bernstein is doing is running a 3rd set of fingers in here somewhere that don't do a thing until told to, either hydraulically or possibly by air pressure, either driver controlled or maybe computer controlled. And there's no rule against that just yet. But as far as Darrell Gwynn's car is concerned, I can tell you right now that this is a pretty basic standard clutch.
Well, Steve, it's obvious that he and his family, his dad, Jerry, know something that nobody else does. The elapsed times and the speeds generated by this car have absolutely astonished the competition. Dick LaHaye in the near lane now has the unenviable task of trying to stop the charge of Darrell Gwynn. The staging beams, electronic light beams across that starting line, indicate when the car is in proper position. Dick LaHaye rolls in. Darrell Gwynn staged. It's a green light start, and Gwynn pulls away. He continues to extend his lead. 5.33 seconds is elapsed time, but he's had some engine problems. Look at the smoke out of the motor on his 272-mile-an-hour run. The 1986 Chief Auto Parts Nationals is being brought to you by Fram Bendix Autolite, which are all quality products of Allied Automotive. And by Budweiser. For all you do, this Bud's for you. And by Goodyear. Goodyear Eagles. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them. And by Oldsmobile, the official car of the National Hot Rod Association. Oldsmobile, where quality is built in. The remarkable story of Montesano, Washington, doing the burnout to get the tires as hot as possible as he is matched against Hank Endres from Pennsville, New Jersey. In the first round, Earl Whiting defeated Joe Amato, and Amato, one of the few racers to smoke the tires off the starting line. Hank Endres, in his first round race, defeated Jack Revell. The 48-year-old Endres has been in Top Fuel racing for 25 years, enjoying the best performance of his career throughout this 1986 season. Meantime, Steve is with Darrell Gwynn, a Top Fuel racer for 2 years.
Have you backed down from the 520s you ran in qualifying intentionally because of the way you've been snake-bit earlier this year?
Yes, we have, and we're very leery about eliminations. You know, it's bit us many a times, and we proved that we can go out there and qualify number 1, but that don't even get you a cup of coffee anymore, Steve. But we're trying to get this win and get ahead of Garlitz in the points, which we can't get ahead of him. We can get real close to him, and there's 2 races left, and we're trying to make a heck of a battle out of it.
Such is the nature of drag racing that Darrell Gwynn, out of a world championship in top alcohol dragster, has already won 3 national events this season on the NHRA trail, while the man in the far lane, Hank Endres, has been racing for a quarter of a century and has yet to win his first national event. But he has a commanding lead over Earl Whiting, and he wins the race, advances into the semifinals with a 5.48 second elapsed time. His speed at the end of the quarter mile, 262 miles an hour. on the starting line. Our next car set to go. This is Eddie Hill from Wichita Falls, Texas. Racing against Hill is one of the true legends of Top Fuel drag racing, Don Garlits from Ocala, Florida. Earlier this year, Diamond P Sports brought you the coverage of Don Garlits' spectacular 270-mile-an-hour run at the Gator Nationals. That speed thought to be unattainable by any conventional style car. Then, at the Texas Motorplex, Darrell Gwynn comes out and blasts 3 consecutive 278-mile-an-hour runs to take away Garlits' record. Eddie Hill in round number 1 defeated Larry Minor, while Don Garlits, his sights set definitely on Darrell Gwynn, beat the Minor team car driven by Gary Beck. Earlier, Steve had a chance to ask Don about the Gwynn performance phenomenon.
Don? As the fans are lined up here for autographs, I'd like to ask you a question if I could, and that's what you think and your impressions of Darrell Gwynn's performance this weekend.
Well, it's a little outstanding, a little breathtaking, I guess. You know, you have to pardon me if I'm not overly exuberant about it.
Well, it's obvious that the performance of Gwynn is definitely on Don Garlits' mind. But if he expects to meet Gwynn later in competition, he has to get by the veteran Texas racer, Eddie Hill. With his career starting back in the late 50s, he has raced against Garlits many times. And Hill smokes the tires, too much power, too much clutch, and Garlits across the finish line for the win. A little bit of smoke out of the engine, 5.37 seconds elapsed time, 268 miles an hour. Improving his performance just a bit is Don Garlits in the semifinals. He will be racing against his veteran pal, Connie Coletta. Garlits having lane choice. Darrell Gwynn races against Hank Endres. Gwynn has the lane choice by virtue of the lower elapsed time of the two. We're set now for funny cars. Here's the man that owns this beautiful Texas Motorplex. This is Billy Meyer. The Ford Thunderbird body covering the some 3,000 horsepower of nitro-burning race engine. The body coming down on the car owned by Roland Leong and driven by Johnny West. This is the first full season on the national event trail for Johnny West. He formerly campaigned his own car out of Chandler, Arizona, then started driving earlier this year for Roland Leong. In round 1, he defeated the Minor team car driven by Ed McCulloch. In the first round, Billy Meyer defeated Jim Head. There's got to be a lot on this young man's mind this weekend. Not only is he campaigning his sophisticated race car, he's also got an inaugural event at his brand new racetrack. While these two cars continue to get ready for their race, let's go to Steve with Don Garlits.
You know, we've talked before about the performance of Darrell Gwynn, but he seems to have learned that you can't go out and try to run those 20s during eliminations. He's running very close to the numbers you are now.
Well, you got to remember, we got a concrete starting pad at every drag strip. You can spin the tires here, and that can kill you. Look at Amato, you know. The track is tremendous going down the course, but you got to be very careful about your starting line procedures.
Good luck.
Thank you.
It must be remembered that there's a lot more to this sport than just pure performance, and you're looking at the acknowledged master at reading track conditions and adapting to them successfully. How have our funny cars adapted? We'll know in a moment. Billy Meyer in the near lane, Johnny West in the far lane. And Meyer with the lead off the starting line. He extends it to several car lengths at the finish line and wins with his quickest elapsed time of the meet thus far, 5.65 seconds, 256 miles an hour to advance to the semifinals. The next car, the reigning world champion, Kenny Bernstein. Many say he is responsible, along with his crew chief, Dale Armstrong, not only for the superlative performance of this car, but also that of the Top Fuel dragster of Darrell Gwynn. Bernstein is racing against Jim White, driving for Dick Moritz from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Let's go to Steve with Billy Meyer.
A little hard to count the crowd as you're driving down the racetrack, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't concern myself with that. I'll get back to that on Tuesday in the office. And, of course, it's just one more thing for NHRA Racing.
Boy, that's for sure. This inaugural event at the beautiful Texas Motorplex has contributed more to the sport of NHRA Championship drag racing than anyone could have ever foreseen. Kenny Bernstein took his first round win at the expense of the young man that won the NHRA U.S. Nationals earlier this year, Mike Dunn. While it was a big upset for Jim White. White drove Dick Moritz's car to a victory over John Force. Force going out in round number 1. Now, it is Jim White in the near lane. Kenny Bernstein in the far lane. Both cars are set. And it's a great start for Bernstein. He just drives away from Jim White. But there's some problems with Bernstein's motor. The concern showing on the face of Kenny Bernstein's crew. Look at the smoke pouring out of the header pipes. 5.75 seconds, only 205 miles an hour, indicating lots of problems in store for Kenny Bernstein. You see the smoke starting to come out of the engine, the car slowing drastically, but he still wins the race.
Well, you saw it all just then on the look of Kenny Bernstein's lady Cheryl, utter dismay when she saw that engine go away. You know, Jim White had a better handling car. I might be talking to him now. Kenny, the car just almost stopped on you.
Yeah, I did. It broke something badly about the three-quarter mark. Unbelievable. We haven't had much trouble all week in that area, but there's something bad wrong right now.
Was there a shutter or anything in the car?
No, there wasn't. It just like it burned up, but it shouldn't have. I mean, something screwy was happening there, but Dale and the guys will figure it out.
When they burn up that quickly, almost instantaneously, your head almost hits the dashboard.
Well, it really does. It stops pulling just like you say. It's over with. I was hoping I had made it to the finish line before he did, and I got out of it and back in it even though I knew it was hurt because I wasn't at the finish line yet, but that's the way it is.
We'll check in with you in the pits. Thanks.
Yeah.
They've got lots of work ahead of them to prepare this car for the semifinals of the Chief Auto Parts Nationals. At the Chief Auto Parts Nationals in Darrell Gwynn's top fuel pit area, it is as we expected. Problems with the engine. In fact, they were so severe they didn't waste time trying to repair the motor. They just completely changed engines.
Didn't take Darrell Gwynn's mechanics long to figure out that this engine wasn't even worth fooling with. They have already changed motors, and here's why. 4 spark plugs in this engine did not even want to come out. In fact, they shredded the spark plugs trying to get them out. 2 on my side and the 2 you're seeing there. What caused this situation? An exhaust valve has broken on both sides of the engine just from the competition of the weekend. They can't take that much heat. The exhaust valve breaks, tangles with the piston, knocks the end off of the spark plugs, and pumps all kinds of bits of metal throughout the engine. No sense even trying to take the heads off of this. They've done the wise thing, conserving their time for that engine change.
At the Texas Motorplex near Ennis, Texas, I'm Dave McClelland along with Steve Evans, and we're in round number 2 racing for funny cars. This is young Tim Gross. Gross, winning the Winter Nationals this season, defeated Raymond Beadle out of Dallas in round number 1, while Mark Oswald, driving the Candies in Hughes' car, beat Della Woods. You have seen Oswald win twice this season on USA Sports, the Denver Mile High Nationals, and the Castrol GTX Keystone Nationals from Reading, Pennsylvania. Tim Gross couldn't wait. He disqualified himself, left the starting line too soon. A big red light and a big win for Mark Oswald. He drives around him 5.59 seconds and a new national speed record over 268 miles an hour for Mark Oswald. As we look again, Tim Gross in the near lane leaves way too early. And there is the big red light indicating his disqualification. For Mark Oswald, there's lots of work. The speed of 268 miles an hour has literally split that fiberglass body in two. The question is, can they repair it before the semifinal round? The crew, headed by Paul Candies and Leonard Hughes, will take the Pontiac Trans Am back to the pit area, determine can repairs be made. On the starting line, our next pair ready to go. Tom McEwen in the far lane, Tom Hoover in the near lane. Hoover has been a funny car and top fuel racer in championship drag racing for over 20 years. In round number 1, he defeated Oklahoma's Jerry Jefferson, while Tom McEwen, winner of 2 events this season, beat Doc Holliday. McEwen, with over 30 years experience in this straight-line quarter-mile sport, enjoying his best season ever, much to the pleasure of one of his longtime friends and backers, Billy Bones. And McEwen just drives away from Tom Hoover. McEwen and his Corvette-bodied car goes into the semifinals. His elapsed time, 5.74 seconds. His speed, 248 miles an hour. That sets the pairings. Tom McEwen against Billy Meyer, with Meyer having the lane choice. The second pair finds Kenny Bernstein against Mark Oswald. The 2 drivers locked in the chase for the World Championship, and Mark Oswald has the lane choice. In the pit area, there's lots of work going on Kenny Bernstein's car. Something gave way in the valve train, causing damage to the engine. And don't be changing the color on your set, folks. It's caused by the red awning under which this funny car sits. And that brings us to Pro Stock Eliminator. These are the factory hot rods, designed and built from conventional cars utilizing 500 cubic inch engines running with 2 4-barrel carburetors on racing gasoline. These are highly exotic race cars. Here is the man from Dallas, Texas, Bruce Allen, driving the Rare and Morrison Camaro. He defeated Don Coons in round number 1, while from Ventura, California comes Jerry Ekman. He defeated Steve Schmidt in his first round race. 2 Chevrolet Camaros locked together on the starting line at the Texas Motorplex. The staging underway. Ekman in the beams. Now comes Bruce Allen. And it is Bruce Allen with the advantage. By a slim margin, Allen is ahead of Jerry Ekman. And as they cross the finish line, it is less than a car length. But the win to Bruce Allen in the Rare and Morrison Camaro. The Texas crowd just cheering on their Dallas favorites. Here is the man going after his 50th national event win. An incredible win string put together by Bob Glidden from Whiteland, Indiana. He defeated Butch Leal in the first round. Racing against Glidden is Darrell Alderman. Normally this car is driven by David Hutchins, the man you see here. But Hutchins is having problems with his left leg, and this week turned the driving chores over to Darrell Alderman, who defeated Tony Christian in the first round. This is your classic Ford versus Chevrolet battle. Glidden in the Thunderbird has established low elapsed time at this meet and is trying for that all-important 50th win. There appears to be some problems, though, with Alderman's car. They've got the fire extinguisher out and shoots it right into the hood scoop. Apparently a carburetor fire. That gives a free ride to Bob Glidden. He gets a single run into the semifinals. The Ford Thunderbird goes down the quarter mile, stops the timers at 7.47 seconds. His speed over 185 miles an hour. And Darrell Alderman's day coming to an end, falling prey to mechanical problems. Back in the pits, Don Garlitz and his crew working very methodically, preparing that engine for the next round of racing. No frantic action here, no wasted motion. Crew Chief Herb Parks and Garlitz combining their efforts as they do so often in getting this car ready. While at the far end, this man, the reigning world champion, Bob Glidden, is one step closer to that coveted 50th national event victory. At the starting line, our next pair of pro stockers doing their burnout. In the near lane, the man that has won 3 times thus far this season, driving the Oldsmobile Forenza, is W.J. Warren Johnson. In round number 1, he defeated Stan Mizell, while his competition, Don Beverly, beat Mark Howick. It was just a couple of weeks ago that Don Beverly took his first ever national event win at the Castrol GTX Keystone Nationals. You watch right here on USA Sports as he pulled off the upset of the meet, driving a very unique automobile to beat Bruce Allen in the final.
If you saw our coverage from Maple Grove, you'll recall the stunning upset victory by Don Beverly in Pro Stock. It was his first ever win, and on hand were the Gliddens and the Johnsons, so it was quite a triumph for him in this Trans Am automobile. But Beverly has something on board that might contribute to this almost immediate success. Now, this car is not shifted manually. A computer shifts it. It is totally automatic. Normally in this area, on any other Pro Stock car, there's just a forest of levers they call lightning rods. Here, there's only one, and that just controls reverse. Now, these 3 little toggle switches, he can manually select an individual gear for burnout purposes and so forth. But once he goes to the starting line, all 3 switches are in the up position. The car shifts totally electronically, thanks to 3 little solenoids down there, one to control each transmission. Now, the chips can be changed in those solenoids to precisely shift at any predetermined RPM. So Don is trying to tout this really as a safety feature. It allows him to keep both hands on the wheel. Well, that's true, but it also gives him a distinct advantage because how these cars are shifted contributes much to their success. Now, NHRA's position on computers, they don't mind them as a gatherer of data. They don't like them performing functions, and it'll be interesting to see if the new season that this particular thing might be taken away from Don Beverly and put him right back to having to pull all of the lightning rods everybody else does.
But that is in a season to come, because right now Don Beverly in the far lane, the computer-assisted car, against Warren Johnson at the wheel of the Oldsmobile. And Beverly red lights. He leaves the starting line too soon. The human factor prevails. Warren Johnson takes the win and still drives around Don Beverly. His elapsed time, 7.55 seconds. His speed, 184 miles an hour. Back at the starting line, our next pair getting set. Joe LeBone Jr. driving the Camaro, the engine built and tuned by this man, Bill Grumpy Jenkins. Lapone won his first ever NHRA National Championship when he took the World Finals title in 1985. Here he defeated Gordy Rivera in the first round. His competition, Dempsey Hardy, beat Lee Dean in round number 1 racing. On the starting line, Dempsey Hardy in the near lane, Joe Lapone Jr. in the far lane. Both drivers taking their time about staging. Hardy in the lead and leaves way too soon. Dempsey Hardy just leaves the starting line before the tree's even activated. And here comes Joe Lapone on an easy run. And he records a 7.59 second elapsed time. Let's go down to the far end. Steve is with Don Beverly.
You know, computers can do a lot of things in these cars, as you've proven with this Trans Am, but that you still got to get off the line on time. Every driver does.
There's no question about that, Steve. It still doesn't make it any easier to run Warren and Bob and these guys, but we're still coming along pretty good, and like you say, I think the computer thing's gone a bit far enough.
Yeah, we need all the human element we can get, like any sport.
I agree with you 100%.
Okay. Don Beverly, he's out in the second round.
Don Beverly and Dempsey Hardy both red-lighting themselves out of competition. That sets our semi-final pairings. Joe Lapone against Warren Johnson, Johnson having lane choice, and Bob Glidden against Bruce Allen in another Ford versus Chevrolet battle with Bob Glidden having lane choice. We'll be coming right back to the Texas Motorplex. Texas Motorplex near Ennis, Texas, as Darrell Gwynn gets set to do his burnout for the semifinal round of Top Fuel Racing at the Chief Auto Parts Nationals. If you like this kind of NHRA Championship drag racing action, I've got a tip for you coming up at the beautiful Firebird Raceway near Phoenix, Arizona. The next event on the National Event Trail, the Fall Nationals, October 10th through the 12th. Hank Andres gets set to meet up against Darrell Gwynn, while back in the pit, there's some preparation going on.
Well, Dave, it's that story we've seen so many times. When one drag racing crew needs help, everybody pitches in. This is the body off of the Candies and Hughes car. It has been moved over into Jim Head's camp, where Jim Head's crew, members of the Blue Max team, Della Reese's crew, John Force's crew, everybody here trying to put some kind of a Band-Aid on this body. Paul believes that he cannot change bodies, even if he had a spare one, that you have to run the body you qualified with. So pieces of aluminum are being cut and formed, and this whole thing will be riveted together. They just hope they can get enough rigidity to keep it on the car in the next round. But boy, they are thrashing here, and I think they thrive on it.
Steve, I know you're a jazz buff, but it's Della Woods crew members, not Della Reese's. Here's Darrell Gwynn and Hank Andres. Gwynn in the far lane, Andres driving John Kerry's car in the near lane. And Gwynn again just streaks ahead off the starting line. Look at the lead. Darrell Gwynn wins the race, and look at the elapsed time. That brand new motor powered him to a 5.27 second elapsed time and a speed over 276 miles an hour. But there's smoke, and where there's smoke, there could be damage. Don Garlett sitting right behind Darrell Gwynn. Watch those times pop up on the scoreboard. He knows he is off the performance of Gwynn. Would love to meet young Darrell in the finals, but has to get past this man first, the veteran Connie Coletta. The crowd's still buzzing about the performance level of the Gwynn family operation. Let's go to Darrell.
Well, this race car driver turned off down here, Dave, clapping his hands together. You knew it was good. Did you know it was a 527 at 276?
No, I had no idea, but I'll tell you what, it sure did feel good, and I just knew at half track the motor change definitely worked. I felt pretty confident about the motor change, but like I said before, there's always that little thing, you know, when you change a motor, you're back up against the wall, you know, it's anybody's race again, and here we are going to the final with a 527. I cannot believe it.
Darrell Gwynn will race one of these two men. Will it be Connie Coletta in the near lane, or will it be Don Garlett in his streamliner in the far lane? The advantage to Garlett off the starting line. He pulls ahead as Coletta maintains the lead and sets up our finals, as we have seen so many times before. Don Garlett against Darrell Gwynn, but never before has Darrell Gwynn enjoyed the performance advantage he has here at the Chief Auto Parts Nationals. In the pit area, Billy Meyer preparing his car for the semifinal round race against Tom McEwen when we come back to the Texas Motorplex. Don Garlett trying to figure out where is he going to find that additional 0.2 of a second performance that will allow him to be competitive with Darrell Gwynn. On the starting line, our semi-finalists in Pro Stock. The Chevrolet of Bruce Allen in the near lane. The Ford Thunderbird of Bob Glidden in the far lane. And Glidden, of course, going for his 50th national event victory here at the Chief Auto Parts Nationals. Taking their time about staging the Pro Stock into the beams. The RPMs go up, and it is Glidden off the starting line first. He's got about a half a car length lead at mid-track and wins it by nearly a car length at the finish, and a high five between the Glidden sons, indicating another round victory for Bob Glidden. That puts him into the finals. He'll race against either Warren Johnson, number 2 in the world last season with the Oldsmobile, or Joe Lapone Jr., driving the Chevrolet built and tuned by Bill Grumpy Jenkins. While these two cars finish their burnouts, let's go to Steve Evans.
Well, Bob Glidden continues to reel him off another 748.
That was not quite as good a run as the run we made before, Steve, but
MET.
real close, within 100. I guess we'll run Warren in the final, and I'm sure it's going to be a great race.
This man, they have something to say about that final round race. Joe Lapone, at the wheel of the Chevrolet, wants to put away Warren Johnson so he can race against Bob Glidden. And a nearly perfect start for Warren Johnson. Only 100th of a second off of a perfect light. Warren Johnson builds a big lead over Joe Lapone, and he needed every bit of it. Joe Lapone actually running quicker than Warren Johnson's 766, but it was the starting line advantage for Warren Johnson. With a perfect driving job, puts him into the finals against Bob Glidden. Glidden having lane choice in his quest for a 50th national event victory. That brings us to the semifinals of Funny Car. This is Kenny Bernstein. Let's go to the far end of the racetrack. Steve Evans has had a chance to catch up to Warren Johnson.
1/100th off a perfect light.
Well, 401. That's about as good as you can get. We're happy with that.
Okay. See you in the final.
Thank you.
A brilliant driving job by Warren Johnson puts him in the final. Can he stop the charge of Bob Glidden? We'll know in a few moments. Here is Mark Oswald. He has been in hot pursuit of Kenny Bernstein all season long. Look at the tape. Look at the aluminum. They patched that fiberglass Pontiac body back together just to get the Candies and Hughes car to the starting line to race against Kenny Bernstein. Oh, a tremendous start for Oswald, but look at Bernstein. Come on. And at the finish line, Kenny Bernstein, by just about a fender length, pulls ahead of Mark Oswald. 5.57 seconds, 265 miles an hour. As we watch again, you can see Oswald did very well off the starting line. He appeared to have a strong lead, pulling ahead of Bernstein. Then at the middle of the track, it was Bernstein's turn as he came from behind, thundering past Oswald to take the win by just a few feet. Oswald's time, 5:61, but Bernstein quicker at 5.57 seconds. Both cars running over 265 miles an hour. Kenny Bernstein into the finals, goes over to shake hands with Paul Candies, the car owner on Mark Oswald's ride. On the starting line, the next two cars, the engine's already running. Tom McEwen driving the Corvette against the Ford Thunderbird-bodied car of Billy Meyer. Racing world-class racing quarter horses as a hobby, Tom McEwen enjoying his best season ever. He has already won 2 national events this year. And what a weekend for Billy Meyer. A great crowd in his first event, and here in the semis against Tom McEwen. McEwen has the lead off the starting line, and just by a matter of inches, he wins the race. He had the slower elapsed time, 5.71, to Billy Meyer's much quicker 5.68. But that whole shot, or the advantage off the starting line, is what paid off for Tom McEwen. As we watch again, you can see McEwen pull ahead. He had nearly 300ths of a second advantage off that starting line. Billy Meyer is way behind at this point, but look how close it is at the finish. That's why the electronic judge is used to determine that Tom McEwen wins the race and moves into the finals.
Good driving. You've been driving well all day. That's your second whole shot.
Well, you know, sometimes the car saves me. Sometimes I save the car. And I'm on my way home. You know, I'm only 3 weeks away from my horses, and Billy Bones is here. You know, so we're trying hard, and we'll just see what happens.
So far, you haven't had to blow up one of Billy Bones' motors.
No, so far it's my engine in here.
Until it blows up.
If it's on fire when it comes down, that's his.
Okay. Let's hope it's not on fire in the final.
Thank you.
And Tom McEwen as relaxed as ever as he goes in to race against Kenny Bernstein in the finals. Bernstein has lane choice. Look at those skies. Threatening clouds moving in right over the top of the Texas Motorplex. The threatening skies, the deluge finally struck. A famed Texas thunderstorm swept across the Motorplex, inundating the competitors and spectators alike. They found shelter wherever they could. Then after the rains left, they came back out. Everybody but one. Mr. Sun had other places to go. He said goodnight, leaving the finals to be run under the lights at the Texas Motorplex. Going for his 50th national event victory, Bob Glidden at the wheel of the Ford Thunderbird is in the near lane. Etta Glidden on hand at the far end of the racetrack under the Diamond Peak cameras, watching closely to see, can this be number 50? In the far lane, the man with a brilliant driving job in the semifinals, Warren Johnson at the wheel of the Oldsmobile. Both drivers concentrating on that start, and Warren Johnson leaves too soon. Johnson is redlining. Bob Glidden wins the race.
Bob and Etta Glidden have won their 50th NHRA Pro Stock title. How do you feel, babe?
Great.
And more important than that, some points towards a world title, huh?
Yes, we feel really fortunate to be in this position right now after the year we've had.
Slowing to only 121 miles an hour, it really doesn't matter. Bob Glidden has just taken his 50th national event victory, and he got it right there when Warren Johnson red-lit away his chances. Johnson leaving that starting line just a bit too soon, disqualifying himself and giving Bob Glidden the 50th win of his career. His wife, Etta, down to congratulate him at the far end of the track. A happy couple, the entire Bob and Etta Glidden crew, victorious for the 50th time on the national event circuit. On the starting line, the finals in funny car eliminator. Tom McEwen in the Corvette in the near lane. Kenny Bernstein drives a Ford Tempo-bodied car in the far lane. Bernstein trying to extend his lead in the World Championship points chase. He put away his nearest competitor in the semifinal round when he defeated Mark Oswald. That earned him the right to race against McEwen. Tom McEwen defeated Billy Meyer, the track builder, in his semifinal race. And Bernstein off first. Look at the smoke off the tires. But Bernstein pulls ahead and defeats Tom McEwen. Dale Armstrong and the entire Bernstein crew looking on intently as they have won another very important victory in their chase for a second World Championship title. As we watch again, you see Bernstein smoking the tires right off the starting line. Normally, that could spell problems, but McEwen had his own, and Bernstein was able to recover, regain the traction, pull ahead, and by several car lengths, win the race.
Tell me about the race with McEwen. You've had some close ones today. What about that one?
Yes, it was. I think he probably jumped a little on me at the start. He's been right on the lights all day. Tom's been, old man's getting good up there, and so I asked him what kind of vitamins he was taking, but he wouldn't tell me what it was. But then it just left, and the Budweiser King just really hauled and ran hard through the middle and never let up.
You leave here with everything you wanted, a victory, both ends of the record, all the points you could muster.
Not only that, Steve, it's Texas, it's home, and I got to race in Texas in front of a lot of friends, and it's a great moment.
Oh, for all of us. And you can hear that noise in the background. That's a Top Fuel final. We'll all be watching that. And your new little teammate, Darrell Gwynn, what do you think?
Well, let's hope that Darrell can do it. He's racing the old man, and, you know, anything can happen. The old man is of course, got legend behind him, but Darrell's hungry, and maybe the Budweiser help over here will give him some ammunition.
Okay, the same crew has tuned up that car, as did the winning funny car.
Steve, on the starting line, it is the old man, Don Garlits, against the young Charger, Darrell Gwynn. They have met in the finals of an NHRA national event 3 times before. In the 1985 Summer Nationals, the 1985 U.S. Nationals, and again at the U.S. Nationals this season in 1986. And all 3 times, experience has prevailed. But never before has Darrell Gwynn been so dominant in the performance level. He has got 2/10 of an advantage over Don Garlits' best run. Darrell Gwynn doing his dry burnout, the car responding as it has before, just launching off that starting line like a bullet. Very calm, very collected. Crew Chief Herb Parks checking over for the last time the injector on top of the supercharger of Don Garlits' car. The canopy over the cockpit. designed to let the wind go around Don Garlett's head. He says that allows him to concentrate on his driving just a bit more. These cars now very complex, with their fuel delivery systems designed to let the driver control the amount of fuel going into the engine, regardless of where they are on the racetrack. The burnouts are over. Both drivers now have one thought in mind: getting off the starting line first. Don Garlett's coming in, the underdog for a change, because Darrell Gwynn has displayed such an awesome performance level that it has left everyone breathless. 5:20 elapsed times, speeds over 276 miles an hour, not once but 4 times, and Garlett is ahead. Garlett pulls ahead, and Gwynn shuts it off, and Garlett wins the race. Don Garlett defeats Darrell Gwynn in the final of the Chief Auto Parts Nationals. What an incredible story. Don Garlett's at 5.39 seconds, 268 miles an hour, is the champion. Auto Parts Nationals in just a few words. This story, Bob and Etta Glidden winning their 50th national event victory, has to take the #1 spot. But close behind has to be Don Garlett's.
Don Garlett's has proven again, qualifying doesn't mean a darn thing. The only thing that matters is the man that wins that 4th round. 5:39, you've done it.
Thank you very much, Steve. It is. 4 rounds is tough, and qualifying doesn't mean anything, especially like a day like today where it rained, and then all of a sudden you got to completely reevaluate the whole situation. We made changes on this car you wouldn't believe to try to cope with the air and everything.
Did the rain work better for you than for him, would you say?
I would say it worked for me because, you know, with a 539 wouldn't beat a 533 or a 527. And I don't know what happened to him. Did he spin his tires?
He backed off and ran the 560.
I say yes.
You were off like a shot.
The car left real good. It did.
A great victory, considering that for a change the spotlight focused on that young man when it's usually always on you.
He has, you know, we're not to diminish his performance in any way. It was unbelievable. You know, he ran 4 or 5 520s and then all those high 270s. Got both ends of the record. You know, I have my highest regard for him, and he's going to be somebody to have to be dealt with. You know,
I don't think there's any chance that we won't see 280 miles an hour on this racetrack at least next year.
Yeah, it'll be here, and of course it might even come at Pomona. We run awful fast there too, you know.
Okay, Herb Parks, Pat Garlett's, the crew is down here to celebrate another big victory for Big Daddy.
Not like giving him a driving lesson.
Really? And that's a happy crew. If you've enjoyed all this action, be tuned to USA Sports for the upcoming Castrol GTX Fall Nationals from Phoenix. For Steve Evans, I'm Dave McClellan saying so long from the Texas Motorplex. The executive producer of Diamond B Sports is Harvey M. Bellish, produced and directed by John B. Mullen. The 1986 Chief Auto Parts Nationals have been brought to you by Fram Bendix Autolite, all quality products of Allied Automotive. And by Budweiser, for all you do, this Bud's for you. And by National Dragster, drag racing's leading news weekly. And by Castrol, the motor oil engineered for today's smaller cars.